I beg of other journalists to pay attention to this because it affects their livelihood. I was out there documenting, news gathering to tell a story, and they tried to silence me, both physically, with injury, arresting me, and taking my camera gear, my livelihood. I was arrested, injured during the arrest, taken to the hospital, cleared, and then taken to jail. Without any idea of what I was being charged with or arrested. I was never Mirandized. I was never told I was being arrested. I was never told what was going on. It wasn't until I got to the county jail when they said, you're being charged with X, Y, and Z that
What was it?
So the charges have changed, and they were continually changing while I was en route to the jail. They ultimately settled on 3 charges, and one of them was injuring an officer and resisting arrest, and I think the other charge was interfering with official duties, which are all after the fact charges. They're all behaviors or charges that happen after an interaction with an officer. They don't lead up to an officer arresting you. It's reaction to the interaction. So it didn't make any sense to me. I had no idea what was going on until I got to jail, and they said, you're being charged for battering and injuring an officer. And I'm like baffled because the officer was there. He continued with his shift. He got to the police station. He was writing a report. Nobody asked him if he was okay, how he was doing. He didn't appear injured at all. And so now I'm being charged and booked for hurting an officer. Like, it didn't make sense with $15,000 bail.
So you paid the bail?
So yeah, we bailed out, and yeah, I got out the next day. Right. So no, we didn't have the $15,000, so we had to use a bail bondsman, and so we paid 10%, and we're out that. Yeah. Charges were rejected. They weren't just dropped. The DA was not buying their story, and they issued a statement, and the statement was really vague, but it essentially said we can't prove this charge. And then you read the affidavits and witness testimony, and there's a lot of discrepancies.
How were you injured?
I was injured during the arrest. So while the officer physically attacked me, and then through, like, on the ground while they were handcuffing me, my shoulder started to come out of socket or whatnot. So I'm a big guy. They didn't use 2 sets of cuffs, which is now the standard. They used 1 set of cuffs, forcing my wrists together, which injured my shoulder. And then as they dragged me to the car, they were extra rough with my shoulder there.
So why sue? Charges dropped. Why is this important to you to continue to press charges?
Because there's no accountability. There's no accountability for the Sausalito Police Department. They did away with their Citizens Oversight Committee, which was the only oversight and watchdog or whatever you want to call it for the Sausalito Police Department. They did away with that years ago. I'm suing to create change. I'm suing to enact policy that makes it safer for both police officers and the citizens that they protect. So police officers often say the most dangerous aspect of their job is pulling people over, right? They don't know who they've pulled over. And it could be something as simple as expired registration. And that is still the most dangerous part of their job. So let's do away with that. Let's keep officers safe so they can focus on keeping us safe without the anxiety and worry, right? Because somebody under stress doesn't make the same decisions. And officers are supposed to be trained to do that, and it doesn't seem like it's happening here.
So, Jeremy, you're not the first journalist in the Bay Area that has been assaulted. Bryan Carmody in San Francisco, his office was attacked, his home was attacked, he was arrested and manhandled by the police. It seems to be there's a pattern right here in the Bay Area. And, I mean, were you a target because of your journalist activities of covering the homeless struggle?
I feel like it. I feel like they didn't want the story out there, and they were trying to silence me by arresting me, taking my gear, and making it so I couldn't tell this story. I have interacted with a few of these officers at many demonstrations, protests, sweeps. I've asked them questions. They know I'm a journalist. how many black journalists with dreadlocks are there in Marin County, let alone in Sausalito, covering the homeless? So for them to say they didn't know I was a journalist is interesting, to say the least. They didn't harass me, so to speak, other than to coordinate together. You know,
How did they coordinate
so
together?
they grouped together. I feel very much they decided ahead of time what was going to happen. I have video footage that shows them grouping and then splitting off and then arresting me and, attacking me and arresting me. They make the claim that Marin ship is such a dangerous environment. They say it's getting out of hand, it's lawless, it's unsafe. They paint a picture of a war zone in this court document, yet 3 officers are on scene separated, not together, watching each other's back. That to me is a little suspicious.
And apparently there were other journalists, white journalists, who were also covering the same event.
Not that day, but the event of this homeless battle, yes. Lots of journalists have been covering this. Actually, since my arrest, 3 documentarians have come out of the woodwork to work on a Marin homeless documentary.
The issue of the wealth disparity. You have millionaires, you have billionaires in California. Apparently in Sausalito, they don't want to see the poor people who are also growing in California, Sausalito, all over the country.
Yeah, I think there is a war against the homeless all over. It's a problem that society has due to various reasons.
Okay.
But they're not working on any solutions. They are persecuting, criminalizing, making it harder and harder to survive homeless.
What do you say to other journalists and the journalist unions who, it seems like there has to be a united campaign of journalists, the right of journalists to do their work.
So yeah, I beg of other journalists to pay attention to this because it affects their livelihood. I was out there documenting, news gathering to tell a story, and they tried to silence me, both physically with injury, arresting me, and taking my camera gear, my livelihood. They tried to silence me, and they, through injury, they've made it difficult to do my job, but I've adapted. I use a tripod now instead of a shoulder rig because I can't carry my camera for as long as I could. But they're not going to stop me from telling the story. They're not going to silence me.
And the district attorney and Rob Bonta, the attorney general, have any of them contacted you about what happened to you?
No, the district attorney issued a statement that was very tactfully worded, distancing themselves from this, basically saying they wanted no part of this.
Are they aware of the SHIELD law in California, which is supposed to protect journalists from assault when they're doing their job?
If they weren't, they are now.
You think that they should prosecute?
Do I think
That they should prosecute?
the officers?
Yes.
I think, honestly, yes. I think they should absolutely investigate and, if founded, prosecute these officers. I have footage that I was recording while I was attacked that, when you compare it to the affidavit, there are large discrepancies that need to be looked at.
They may have lied as well if they're investigated.
I'll say the statements don't match.
My name's Meg Brizzolera. I worked for the City and County of San Francisco for a very long time. I live in Novato, and I'm on the police review board there. I've been fighting for justice and equality my whole life. And this is just another chapter, another unfortunate, disgusting chapter. I wasn't there that day. I've been to the encampment many times. I wasn't there that day. I wish I had been. The travesty of this is just unfathomable, because if you know Jeremy, you know that he's a gentle, decent person, and this was so unnecessary. And these guys, these cops, just do whatever they want, and with complete impunity. They're here to protect property. That's what they do. The rich people up in the hills in Sausalito don't like to see homeless encampments. So the cop's job is to keep those people happy. So
It's a class and race issue.
absolutely, yes. Who knows which comes first? Probably the class.
Apparently there were other white journalists who were at this incident, but only Jeremy was targeted.
Well, there's been, this is what I know, there's been 2 journalists attacked by the Sausalito police in recent memory, and they were both black. And we don't have any information about anybody else, any other journalists. So, I mean, it's so clear. You know, and it's just got to stop.